Hello students, I welcome you to the lecture number 9 of the Constitutional Law in the CLAT lecture series sponsored by Sri Jayendra Rank Zone. I am your mentor Shekhar Gehlot, CLAT PG All India Rank 25. So now we have done with the constitutional part of the CLAT and now we will do some sample questionings. Okay. So the question number 1 is the object of which one of the following writs is to prevent a person from holding a public office which he is not entitled to hold. Okay, so we have done the writs. We have 5 types of writs. Now in the question we can see there are 6 type of writs. Sorry, 4 writs only. Now the answer is which writ is of such nature which prevents a person from holding a public office which he is not entitled to. So there are 4 options: mandamus, certiorari, quo warranto, habeas corpus. As we know, habeas corpus is corpus means bring the body, habeas means have it here, bring the body. Certiorari is against the judicial abuse of authority. Mandamus is mandatory, do something. Quo warranto means what warrant you have to hold the public office. So in this case, answer is quo warranto. Quo warrantum. Which one of the following is not a directive principle of state policy? Okay, so we have done directive principles of the state policy. Now let us see which all the options are. What all the options are? A. Provision for just and humane conditions of work. B. Organization of village panchayat. Promotion of adult education. Promotion of international peace and security. Now when we read DPSPs, we know that humane conditions government has to provide, so definitely it is going to be a DPSP. Organization of village panchayat, yes, we have village panchayat, and this is also a dream of the constitution founders. Particularly it was a dream of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, promotion of international peace and security, this is going to be a DPSP for any country, even for India. But promotion of adult education, when India attained freedom in 1950, this may be a part of DPSP. Right now it is not, but it may become someday today. But that time this particular subject, adult education, was not very much into discussion. So answer is adult. Answer is C, adult education. Right now this is not a part of DPSPs. Which do not belong to the right to freedom of religion. Okay, now we have done freedom of religion. Out of this, which does not belong to right to freedom of religion? Freedom from payment of taxes for promotion of religion, freedom from attending religious instructions or workshop in educational institutions, freedom to conscience and profession, propagate and practice religion, freedom of speech and expression. Okay, so all these are freedom of religion, all these are freedoms. So first is freedom of payment of taxes or promotion of religion. We know that when we pay a tax or when we do a charity, we are exempted from the tax. Freedom from attending religious instruction, so nobody compels us to go to a temple. Even if we want to go, we can go. If we don't want to go, we may not go. Okay, even in the educational institutions. Okay, nobody can compel you to put a tilak or wear a specific cap. Freedom to conscience or profession, propagate and practice religion, we have a freedom to profess any religion we may want to. But freedom of speech and expression, yes, we have a freedom of speech and expression as well, but this does not form part of right to freedom of religion. This is a separate freedom, this is not a part of freedom of religion. So our answer in this question is going to be D, option D. Freedom of speech and expression is not a part of right to freedom of religion. Power to summon the House of Parliament is vested with President, Vice President, Speaker, Prime Minister. Okay, as we have discussed, power to summon the House of Parliament is vested with the President of India. Okay, usually people get confused here with Speaker. Okay, Speaker cannot summon the House of Parliament. Speaker will only preside the House of Parliament, but President will summon the House. Under the Constitution of India, the official language of Union is English and Hindi, Hindi in Devanagari script, Hindi, English. Okay, so in this, though Hindi is the official language, but the correct answer is Hindi in the Devanagari script. Hindi in the Devanagari script. Parliament of India consists of Council of States, House of People and Council of States. The Council of State is Rajya Sabha, House of People is Lok Sabha, and Rajya Sabha, President of India and House of People and Council of States. So we discussed the Constitution says there shall be a Parliament which shall consist Council of States, House of People and President of India. So our answer is going to be D. In case President wants to resign, he shall address his resignation to. Whom will he address his resignation to? Will he address his resignation to Prime Minister of India or the Chief Justice of India, Speaker of Lok Sabha or the Chairman of Rajya Sabha? What do you think? So President has nothing to do with the Prime Minister. Okay, Chief Justice of India definitely gives oath to the President of India, but he also has nothing to do with the Chief Justice. Speaker of Lok Sabha, no. Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Council of States. Who's the Chairman of Rajya Sabha? Chairman of Rajya Sabha is Vice President. Vice President of India. Because when the President will resign abruptly in between, so Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, that is Vice President of India, he'll have to function as officiating President, acting President. Therefore, when he will resign, he'll address his resignation to the Chairman of Rajya Sabha, that is the Vice President. So answer is D. In case of death of a President and Vice President of India, who shall be the President of India? Chief Justice of India, Attorney General of India, Parliament will nominate among its members, Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Council of States. So, in case the President has died and even the Vice President has died, who shall be the President of India? Will it be the Chairman of Rajya Sabha? In this case, the Chairman of Rajya Sabha is is actually the Vice President. So, even when the Vice President has died, suppose President had died, then Vice President would have acted as a President of India. But now here even Vice President has died. So now who will act as a President of India? Parliament will nominate among its members? No, Parliament cannot nominate a President. Okay, but in that case, Chief Justice of India, highest judicial officer of India, will act as a President. Answer is A. And Muhammad Hidayatullah. Chief Justice Muhammad Hidayatullah is one such example who acted both as an acting Vice President as well as a acting President of India when the then President of India died, and the V.V. Giri, who was the Vice President or the Chairman of Rajya Sabha, he acted as a President of India. He became acting President. So Chief Justice became acting Vice President, and when V.V. Giri resigned to become the President, and meanwhile till the time elections were conducted, Chief Justice Hidayatullah, he became acting President of the India. Who was the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly? P.R. Ambedkar, P.N. Rao, Pandit Nehru, or Rajendra Prasad? Okay, now when we learned about the beginning of the Constitution of India, we read that Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee. He was the chairman of the drafting committee. Pandit Nehru was a member of Constituent Assembly. Okay, he's known for moving a objective resolution that later on became preamble. Rajendra Prasad was the chairman. Constitutional advisor was P.N. Rao. So answer is B. President of India exercises his powers either directly or through his subordinates. Okay, so how President of India will exercise his power? Either directly or through his subordinates, through minister, through prime minister, or through cabinet. So ministers are never responsible to the president. They have nothing to do with the president other than the fact that president appoints them and can remove them on the recommendation of president. Prime minister. The ministers are accountable to the Prime Minister and usually to the Lok Sabha, and Prime Minister is accountable to the Lok Sabha only. Okay, and cabinet is the collection of minister and Prime Minister. So the only answer here is either directly, one man, even if he is the president, he'll either act directly or through his subordinates. He has his own subordinates. He'll act either directly or through his subordinate. He may act through these ministers as well because they also become his subordinates. But the correct answer will be either directly or through his subordinates. So in this case, answer is going to be A. All these questions which we are doing as practice have been asked in the CLAT earlier. Who administers oath of office to the governor of state? Who will administer oath of office to the governor of state? Now we know the governor is appointed by the President of India. Answer is, sorry, not options are President of India, Chief Justice of the respective state, Chief Minister, or the Prime Minister. Uh, Prime Minister has no such oath confirming powers. Even Chief Minister and Prime Minister, they have a lot of powers, but they cannot confer oath on someone. Okay, so these two options are out. Anywhere, whenever any question of oath of office is asked, you just understand the Chief Minister, Prime Minister will never ever go for an oath ceremony. They will go for oath ceremony only when they are swearing in themselves. They will never be someone who will administer oath to someone. Chief Minister, Prime Minister will never administer oath to someone. Okay, it is done by the President of India or judges. So in this case, because the governor is the governor of a state, then answer will be Chief Justice of respective state. Okay, because like we did in earlier question, president exercises his powers either directly or through his subordinate. So because judges of High Court, Supreme Court are appointed by the president, they are his subordinates. In fact, everyone in India is his subordinate, but they are the official subordinates. So when a governor is taking an oath, then he acts. President is acting through his subordinates. Though the administering it done by is done by the Chief Justice, but he is doing it only as a subordinate of the President of India. So Chief Justice of the state administers oath of the office to the governor of the state. Now, in this question, you may be asked to choose. Sometimes questions may be like this as well. Choose the best option for following statements. Okay. No one can be compelled to sing national anthem since. Okay. Now, no one can be compelled to sing national anthem since. Now, since means what are the reasons for this? It will be violative of the right to speech and expression. It will be violative of the freedom of religion, and there is no legal obligation anyone to sing national anthem. So what will be the correct answer? The options are 1 and 2 are correct, 1 and 2 are correct, B is 2 and 3 are correct, C 1 2 3 are correct, D none of them is correct. Okay, so in this case the correct answer is going to be option C. Okay, because singing national anthem definitely is a fundamental duty, but fundamental duty is only obligatory in nature. No one can compel us, so definitely there is no legal obligation. Okay, plus if I am compelled to sing something which I don't want to sing, it will definitely be violative of my right to speech and expression. Okay, because right to speak means right to silence as well. If I can remain silent, no one can compel me to speak. Just because I have a right to speak doesn't mean that I'll have to speak. It will be violative of freedom of religion. It is said that national anthem has some religious tones as well. I don't know, but some people say, some communities feel so. Definitely, it will be violative of right to freedom of religion as well. So option is 1, 2, and 3 all are correct. Now assertion is there, and then you have to find the reason. Assertion is, we are asserting some fact is being asserted. What is the fact? It is, in India every state has its high court within its territory. Okay, this is being asserted that every state has its high court within its territory. The Constitution of India provides for a high court in each state. Okay, in each state. Now you have to find options are both A and R are correct, and R is correct explanation of A. Both A and R are correct, but R is not true explanation of A. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. Okay, so now it is said. Now we have to see the fact. Assertion is fact. What is the fact? In India, every state has its high court within territory. Does every high court has, every state has a high court within its own territory? Answer is no. Okay, because some states have high court outside its territory, like Goa. Goa's high court is Maharashtra High Court, Mumbai High Court. Okay, so the Constitution of India provides for a high court in each state. In this answer, assertion uh, A is false, but R is true, because Constitution of India provides for a high court in each state, but it is rightly every state does not right now have its own high court within its territory. Every state has a high court, but they do not have within its territory. Goa is one such example. The Council of Ministers at the center is collectively responsible to both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. This is the assertion, they are asserting a fact. Reason: the member of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are eligible to be ministers. Any member of Lok Sabha or a Rajya Sabha can become a minister. Okay, so uh, both A and R are correct, and R is correct explanation. Both A and R are correct, but R is not true explanation of A. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. So first of all, let's see. The Council of Ministers at the center is collectively responsible both to Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. This is the assertion. Okay, why? Because ministers can become from both houses. Okay, but this is not the case. This reason is right. R is true, but A is false. Why? Because Council of Ministers are responsible only to Lok Sabha and not to Rajya Sabha, because only Lok Sabha can bring a no confidence motion and remove a government. Okay, so Rajya Sabha has no control over the Council of Ministers. That means the statement becomes false. This is true. So A is false, but R is true. The reservation of 33% of seats for women in parliament and state legislature does not require constitutional amendment. Political parties contesting the election can give tickets to 33% women when contesting elections. Okay. Both A and R are correct, and R is correct. Now these options are again uniform, same like earlier we did. Now let us see what is the assertion. The reservation of 33% of seat for women in parliament and state legislature does not require a constitutional amendment. First of all, let us examine this statement. Now we remember uh, we had this schedule of the constitution, two of the constitution, which talks about the composition of the parliament, talks about the reserved seats in the Rajya Sabha. So definitely when you want to make a change in the composition of the parliament, you want to make a reservation, you have to make a constitutional amendment. Okay, but this is also right. Political parties contesting the elections can give tickets to 33% women when contesting elections. This is also right. This is also right, but this is not a true explanation of it. Uh, so answer is both A and R are correct, but sorry, this is false and this is correct. A is false, but R is true. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a democratic republic, the republic will ensure that we have a head of the state that is democratically elected and accountable to voters. As a result, the head of the state would be more effective. Okay, so now this is the assertion, this is the fact that we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a democratic republic. Republic will ensure that we have a head of the state that is democratically elected and accountable to voters. Okay. As a result, the head of state will be more effective. Both A and R are correct, and R is correct explanation. Okay, earlier it used to be like there was like in a constitutional monarchy. Okay, the constitutional head is king or queen, and they are not in. I mean, the people do not have control over them. Okay, they are not accountable, so they act according to their whims and fancies. So the only reason for making this republic or democratic is because we want government or the head of the government or the president in our control, so that voters can exercise control over it. Then answer A is okay. Every Republic Day is celebrated on 26th January each year. The Constitution of India came in force on 26th January 1950. Okay, Republic Day is celebrated on 26th January. This is the assertion. Why? Because Constitution of India came in force on 26th January 1950. This is quite an easy answer. Yes, A and R both are correct, and R is correct explanation. Law Day is observed on 26th January, 26th November, 15th January, 15th August, and 26th May. So, Law Day is observed. Usually, people are confused between 26th January and 26th November. 26th January is the Republic Day. Law Day is 26th November. Why? Because on this day, our Constitution was adopted, enforced on 26th January, but adopted on 26th of November 1949. That is why it is our answer here. Which of the following offices are held during the pleasure of President? Vice President, Governor of the State, Chief Justice, Comptroller General. President of the pleasure of the President means President can remove that particular person according to his wishes. So in this case, Vice President, he cannot be removed. He can be removed only by the Rajya Sabha or and the Lok Sabha. Governor of a state, he has a tenure of 5 years, but he can definitely be dismissed by the president before his tenure. So in this case, answer is going to be the B. Why? Because Chief Justice can be removed only by the impeachment. CAG also only by the impeachment. Which of the following statement is incorrect regarding fundamental duties under the Constitution of India? Which of the following statement is incorrect? Okay, we have to read the question also careful. Which of the following statement is incorrect? Not correct, incorrect. To uphold and protect the sovereignty and integrity of India, to respect women, to protect wildlife and environment, to vote in elections. Okay, so all these three, above three, are definitely fundamental duties if you recall, but to vote in elections is just a citizen's duty but not a fundamental duty. Okay, it has not, it's a, yeah, it is a duty. We have to vote in the elections, we must, but it is not written in the fundamental duties. So our answer is D. How many members could be nominated to the Rajya Sabha by the President of India? 2, 12, 30, 14. Okay, so 14 is total number of the members President could nominate. That is 12 in one house and 2 in one house. 2 are the number of Anglo-Indian members which President could nominate in Lok Sabha. So definitely 12 is the number which President could nominate in Rajya Sabha. How many members could be nominated to the Lok Sabha by the President of India? Now we have just done this, so yes, the answer is A, 2. Only 2 members, that too belonging for Anglo-Indian communities. Who is called the first law officer of India? Who is called the first law officer of India? The options are Solicitor General, Attorney General, Chief Justice of India, Advocate General, Attorney General of India. Okay, so in these, Chief Justice of India is only the, he is the Chief Justice of India. He is not the law officer. Okay, he is the judicial officer. First of all, you understand. Advocate General, definitely we read Advocate General is in the state, so he cannot be a first law officer of India. Definitely he can be a first law officer of his own state. Solicitor General is beyond Attorney General. He is a subordinate of Attorney General. So the only answer available is Attorney General of India is the first law officer of India. Which of in the preamble of the Constitution of India, which one of the following is correct order? We have to find the order. Okay, socialist, democratic, sovereign, secular. So what is the correct order? Answer, oh sorry, option A is 3 4 2 1. That is sovereign, secular, democratic. First of all, see, I'll have to make these changes. 1 2 3 4. Okay, so sovereign, secular, democratic, and socialist. Okay, third one is second one is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic. Then sovereign, democratic, secular, socialist, sovereign, socialist, democratic, secular. Okay, so in this we have to memorize the correct orders. These kind of questions can also be asked to you. See, these all are the part of the preamble, but what is the correct order? We'll have to remember it. Correct order is sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic. That is option B is the correct answer. It appears in this way: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic. You'll have to memorize the correct order. SST, triple SD. Okay, triple SDR is usually the sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. SSSDR, triple SDR. Which fundamental rights are available to citizen of India alone? This kind of questions may also be asked to you, and so many options may be given, but I'll give you a chart of all these fundamental rights which are exclusively available to citizen of India alone. Okay, so you have to know all the fundamental rights we have done. Out of these, only these are the fundamental rights which are available to citizens. So your options may be keep on changing, but you have to find these out of those. Okay, Article 15, this is prohibition of discrimination. Article 16, equality. Article 19, these freedoms. Article 29, protection of language. These rights are available to citizens of India alone. All other fundamental rights are available to anyone, even someone who is a foreigner in India for the time being. You cannot kill him. He also has a right to life. He also has a right to education. Okay. So, but these articles, he cannot seek equality and he cannot raise his voice and do exercise all the freedoms. He cannot move around or settle anywhere he wants to. Okay, so these rights are available only to citizens. So questions may be asked: which of the fundamental rights are available to the citizens of India alone, or which of the fundamental rights are not available to citizen of India? So either way, you have to understand this. The president of India is elected, selected, nominated, appointed. Okay, what is the correct answer? Is the president of India is definitely elected one. Answer is A, because electoral college consisting of elected members of both houses of parliament and legislative assemblies vote and elect president. Okay, selected is someone who is chosen by a committee. Nominated is someone who is nominated by a person or committee like president, or appointed. Definitely he is appointed later on, but first of all he is elected. Who is the sovereign of India? Who is the highest authority of India? Prime Minister of India, President of India, Chief Justice of India, or we the people of India? So the highest authority of India is we the people of India. D, we people of India, because we are the one who decide the political system of India. We choose our representative. So we are the sovereign. Sovereign means highest power. We are the highest power, people. Because even the constitution reads, we the people of India. Okay, that means we are the sovereign. Constitution is for us. We are not for the constitution. Which of the following legislative house could be abolished? Out of these, which of the legislative house could be abolished? Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Parishad, Vidhan Sabha. Okay, so Rajya Sabha can never be abolished. It's a permanent body. Lok Sabha can be dissolved but cannot be abolished. Vidhan Parishad, Legislative Council, yes, we have understood. We have read that so many states do not have them. That means Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad can very well be abolished. Vidhan Sabha cannot be abolished. In recently, Jammu and J&K's Vidhan Parishad got abolished. Okay, so Vidhan Parishad of Jammu and Kashmir was recently abolished, which is one such example. Writ of mandamus means by what authority a person is holding a public office, bring the body, prohibit to do certain action, to direct performance of legal duty by public. So, by what authority a person is holding office, that is called kyo varanto. What warrant you have? Bring the body is habeas corpus. Corpus. To prohibit someone, it has a separate writ called prohibition. To direct performance of legal duty by public authority. Direct performance means you have to do something, must do something. That means mandate, mandamus, which makes something mandatory. The judge of a high court will address his resignation to Chief Justice of India, Chief Justice of State, Governor, or the President of India. Okay, so Governor is the one who is giving oath to the Chief Justice of State and he is subordinate to the Chief Justice of India. Okay, but he is appointed by the President of India. So we read that one who appoints can only dismiss and accept resignation. So he'll give it to the President of India. Answer is D. Justice, social, economic, and political is guaranteed by the fundamental rights, guaranteed by the people of India, guaranteed by the people of India by writs issued by the Supreme Court of India, a directive principle of state policy, ideals of the Constitution enshrined in the preamble of India. Okay, so in this question, so many four options are there, and four of them all appear somehow right somewhere. Okay, because justice definitely is guaranteed by the fundamental rights. When you have fundamental right, then only you can seek justice. But the real answer here is it is the ideal of the Constitution enshrined in the preamble of the Constitution of India, because preamble of the Constitution of India says so. Preamble of the Constitution declares India as a socialist democratic republic. Now I said we have to remember the perfect order, okay, and that can be asked, and it has been asked so many times. A sovereign socialist secular democratic republic, a sovereign secular socialist democratic republic, a sovereign socialist secular republic democratic. Okay, so the answer is going to be B, because the order is correct order is sovereign socialist, because these words were originally there. Sovereign socialist democratic and republic were originally there. This word secular was added in 1976 by 44th amendment. So this S find mention between just before D. So SSSDR triple SDR sovereign socialist secular democratic republic.
It's 4 o'clock.
According to the Constitution of India, which of the following is fundamental for the governance of the country? Fundamental rights, TPSPs, fundamental duties, fundamental rights, and directive principle of state policy. What is fundamental for the governance of India? Fundamental rights are not for the governance of India. These are for the people. Okay. Fundamental duties too. These are for the people. Fundamental rights and directive principle of state policy. Again, FRs are for people only, not for government. So definitely the answer is going to be DPSP. Directive principle of state policy. Under which of the following rights Sikhs are permitted to carry kirpans or small swords? Sikhs are a separate group of religion in India. Under which of the following rights Sikhs are permitted to carry kirpan or small sword which they carry with themselves? Right to life and liberty, whether they have a threat of the life. Right to freedom, freedom to carry things. Right to freedom of religion, or right to equality. Okay, so in this the answer is freedom of religion, because they have this religious practice in which they carry a kirpan or small sword. Definitely, no one is allowed to carry a sword in the name of right to life and liberty. Neither is this a freedom, nor it turns to equality, because usually people don't carry it, but only six people carry it. Why? Because they have a right to freedom of religion, and their religion permit them to carry so. Legal aid for an accused is fundamental right, fundamental duty, directive principle of state policy, discretion of state. Okay, so now fundamental right, legal aid is also a fundamental right, but it is written in the DPSP only. Okay, it is written the DPSP, and the description of state is not there, so it is written in the DPSP, but the real answer is fundamental right, because though it is not mentioned in the fundamental rights, okay, but it is granted by the judgments. Now it has become a fundamental right, though not written, and it is written in the part of DPSP. But if the question was legal aid for a state is, then the answer would have been DPSP. But when we are talking about on the perspective of the accused, the answer is fundamental right. It is his fundamental right that he must get legal aid. Okay, so now we are done with the Constitution of India, and I'll close the today's slide.